The rain hadn't stopped for hours, a relentless curtain pouring from the heavens like some divine punishment, yet the road kept calling him forward, mile after mile, wiper blades struggling against the storm, headlights bouncing off the black, flooded asphalt. He hadn't eaten, hadn't slept properly, hadn't even allowed himself to pause for breath because all that mattered was the moment he'd finally stand in front of her door again. His daughter. Her birthday. After everything, after distance, silence, and time, he wanted to be there. He had to be there. And as the tires hissed across wet roads and thunder grumbled overhead, the only warmth he felt was from the fire inside him, burning hotter than exhaustion, hotter than regret. His fingers gripped the wheel, knuckles pale, heart heavy. Guilt mixed with hope in the pit of his stomach, a poisonous cocktail that reminded him he wasn't arriving as a hero, just a broken man clinging to love. When he finally pulled into the familiar driveway, his breath caught in his throat. The house stood still, bathed in shadows and glowing dimly from within, alive in ways he hadn't been part of for too long. The porch light buzzed. Rain soaked through his jacket the moment he stepped out. He didn't knock, didn't want to lose his nerve. He just opened the door and walked in. The living room greeted him with warmth, soft lighting, and a scent that pierced through the storm in his mind. Lavender and vanilla, her favorite candles, but underneath it, something else. The lingering musk of bodies, of heat, of secrets not meant for a father to know. His boots squelched against the rug. On the coffee table, 2 half-empty wine glasses, one with lipstick. A blanket draped over the back of the couch, wrinkled and warm. His jaw tightened. Upstairs, a creak of the floor. Soft footsteps. Then she appeared at the landing, hair tousled, robe slipping from one shoulder, eyes wide with disbelief and panic, not just surprise. "Dad?" she breathed, voice barely audible over the rain hammering the roof. And behind her, just visible in the low light, the shape of a man, shirtless, stepping back into shadow. The air between them froze. His heart cracked. Not because she was no longer a child, he knew that, but because she hadn't told him. She hadn't let him in. But the pain didn't last long, because she ran down the stairs in a rush of breathless joy and guilt, wrapping her arms around him, wetting his coat with tears and rain and the heat of a hug that meant everything and nothing at once. "You came," she whispered, and he could hear the relief and the regret battling in her voice. He wanted to speak, but no words came. Not yet. Only silence and the heavy weight of all the years lost between them. She led him to the couch, fussing about his wet clothes, offering dry ones, an old sweater of hers that smelled like the past, and made tea, her hands trembling the entire time. Upstairs, the man didn't come down, didn't make a sound, and neither of them spoke of it. Not yet. The conversation stayed light. The weather, the drive, the cake she hadn't cut yet. But under it all was a river of tension, thick and twisting. She looked older, wiser, tired. And beautiful. Not in a daughterly way, but in the way of women who had learned too much, cried too often, and still managed to keep going. As they sat together, close, the old intimacy returned. Not the one born of parenthood, but something deeper, darker, forged in loneliness. Her fingers brushed his hand once, maybe by accident, maybe not. Her eyes lingered too long. His chest ached in ways it shouldn't. He told himself it was the guilt. That it was just the emotional weight of the reunion. But when she leaned her head on his shoulder, soft and trembling, he didn't move away. He couldn't. The storm outside began to quiet, but the one between them built slowly, dangerously. Midnight turned to 3 a.m. She whispered that she missed him, that it had been too long, that no one ever really made her feel safe. He knew he should go, that he should find a hotel, give her space, let her breathe. But when she curled up against him, pulling his arm around her, resting her face against his neck, he stayed. Motionless, silent, until her lips brushed his skin, too soft, too deliberate. And suddenly, the room was on fire. Her breath hot against his throat, her hand sliding over his chest, testing boundaries they weren't supposed to cross. He pulled away, just barely, but their eyes locked, and in that look lived 1,000 words neither could say. "Do you hate me now?" she asked, barely above a whisper. He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because his body betrayed him. Pulse racing, skin flushed, a hunger he hadn't felt in years, awakened by the wrongest, most forbidden moment. She kissed him, light, questioning, and he didn't stop her. Not at first. The kiss deepened, and the guilt vanished, buried under layers of longing, pain, desperation. Her robe slid lower. His hands, shaking, traced the line of her spine. Everything felt too much and not enough. And just when it seemed they would fall, completely, terribly, beautifully, the sound of footsteps upstairs shattered the spell. The other man was awake. Coming down. She froze. He stood, breathing hard, shame and fire warring in his eyes. She adjusted her robe, her face flushed, not with embarrassment, but with frustration. "You should rest," she said. "Guest room's still yours." He nodded, unable to speak. As he walked down the hall, her voice followed him, softer now, full of weight. "Don't leave again." He didn't answer. The room smelled like her, like secrets, like temptation. He lay on the bed, wide awake, staring at the ceiling while the floor creaked above. Later he heard them, her and the man, voices low, angry, then soft. A fight. Something about loyalty. Something about not being enough. Then silence. Then crying. Then a door slamming shut. And then footsteps, her bare feet on cold floor. The door to the guest room opened. She stepped inside, hair wild, eyes red. "I told him to leave," she said. "Because he never saw me." He sat up. She walked to him, climbed onto the bed. "But you do," she whispered. And he did. Too clearly. She kissed him again. No hesitation this time. Only fire. Only aching. Her hands bold, hungry, trembling as she undid the buttons of his shirt. His hands on her hips, mouths colliding, skin burning. Years of silence screaming between them as clothes hit the floor. The storm inside finally breaking loose. Every touch was desperate. Every moan laced with guilt. But neither stopped. Not when her thighs wrapped around him. Not when his name, not Dad, but his name, the one she never used, spilled from her lips. The night dragged them into sin and sorrow, again and again, until dawn bled into the sky and they lay tangled in sweat and silence, broken and bound by something neither of them could explain.